And don't you think that's, a reasonable question to understand? And you can say, by the way, well, if the course looks good, you shouldn't be here. If the course doesn't look good, it's not good. So at any rate, I'm just wondering if this MIR is going to be able to bring out and give us some of that information so that we can understand exactly
Yeah, get
what's
the
happening.
camera.
I see going through your marketing plan, which is terrific. I'm glad you guys are putting it together, think about it. But there's that 10 million people that come through hotels in those cities in a 120-day period. It may be where I've never seen an ocean time so short over there. And I see thousands of people come and go with golf clubs that have nothing to do with the package plan, but just bring them with us down here. Where's well, I've got that in there. Yeah. I'll go there. Visit hotels and talk to the people over there, so we at least know where they.
Yeah, if you go to June.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. This is just a nice snapshot of what.
I think it's under June.
Yeah, it's under June.
Good, that's a good idea.
I'd like to ask, in Casper's expert opinion, is more important revenue comes from outside play or membership?
I think we've been asked this question before. My standard answer, especially with services, is there needs to be the right mix. Maybe a little bit of a bailout, but it needs to be the right mix. If you look at the percentages, the actual percentage of membership revenue that supports the club is only about 22 or 20% of the total revenue. Membership dues.
The membership dues.
So there's obviously 80% of something else that we've got to be very attentive to make sure the factors I think for this facility to survive and thrive, that number probably would more.
Which number?
The membership number.
The membership.
If, this is my explanation about a year ago today, if the balance could be about 35% membership dues line, I think we got to get our membership number back up to 250 at a minimum. That's a number. And you could couple that with some type of mix of public play or outside the gate type play. And then that third component is probably more of a hodgepodge of package play, resident play, and some of them really kind of guaranteed play to lock in
Tournaments.
each year. Tournaments and everything.
The reason I'm asking is this golf group that you have currently, they're the most dedicated, loyal people you'll ever see. They love this facility, and they're good people, really here. But I've asked several of them, I says, how are we going to get more members? And I think that's a real serious issue that needs to be addressed. And I appreciate Jessica's comment where she said they're going to contact them, but is it going to be an email? Is it going to be a letter? Or is it going to be a phone call? Is this going to be John saying, hey, you guys played last year, you're not with us anymore, how can we get you back? I mean, we need to go out there. We used to have 800 members. We have 180 now. And I think this is really, I think you're right. I think this has to go, well, whatever the number is. We have to increase our membership, and I think they want to grow too.
Yeah, we address that here. It's going to be a combination of all. Phone, direct mail, email, good campaign that we're going after, attacking that. So.
And I've done tournaments here. I've done several tournaments here with the Veterans Memorial Golf Tournament, and there's times they would not accommodate us. They would go elsewhere. And this is our Ocean Pines Veterans Memorial. We couldn't even do a tournament here. Now, that's not under your watch, John, so I know that's going to change. But that's important. We've got to be able to be friendly to outside play, tournaments in particular, and we've got to bring our golfers back. There's so many of them that were maybe a 9-hole geezers group or whatever they call themselves. They all have their own nicknames, but they all want to come back, and they've been sent off otherwise because of negative feelings. So I'm hoping that you're going to work real hard to get that back. I think that's important.
I am. I've actually already touched base with a lot of them as well. So.
Good. That's
already.
I'm glad to hear that.
We're talking trends. Here's where I have to go. When we look at the trend is we, the whole team, missed budget last year by 26% revenue. That's a huge miss. I mean, that we hit the high school. I mean, we completely missed our target. And this year, we're projecting revenues that are 46% better than last year. How can you, I mean, is there something I don't know about this? Is this golf being given away? How can you possibly do that? I mean, do you feel comfortable with this budget? You projected $1,359,004 in retail sales. That's more than we've ever done, ever, by a bunch. Last year we did, what was the number? 978?
978.
That's just, wow. I don't think that's realistic unless somebody can tell me.
48%,
Well, I think, touching on, especially, having May in the picture is going to be a huge bump.
I'll give you that, there's 200.
And then also, going, having a larger April in the next year is going to be a help, along with the membership component. As you can see, it's it doesn't just ramp right up; it slowly increases throughout the course of the fiscal year.
I don't see that.
You guys are the ones that sat down and constructed this budget.
Let's talk about that. Yes, sir.
So it's your budget. You must believe it's true. Well, you can understand where we don't believe it. It's too ambitious a number, and if we run another deficit,
I think the issue here, and I think you've taken a shot at answering it, that it is a very critical question from us. Again, as I said earlier, there's budgetary numbers in there here and results, as we all know, and both of those are very important. Because one of them establishes, how do we look to our membership, overall dues, those kinds of things. We clearly cannot have another year where one of our entities causes a significant loss budgetarily. So you understand our concern, and I'm not going to turn this into a budget discussion because that starts tomorrow. But just so you understand that we're hearing from you that these numbers that are in this book, that Bob and his team worked very hard to put together, we're behind. That's the end of the question. That's the point of the question. We're going to deliver this.
Yeah, absolutely. We're absolutely going to. Now, is there a budget? There's budgets are made to be planned. If we have an instance where we miss that opening day, again, from a construction standpoint or a weather standpoint, then we've got to go back and be able to reforecast some of that number. To Mike's point earlier, the biggest change of the numbers we're looking at now and what we're forecasting for fiscal 14 is that we are assuming there will be a full month of regular, if not excited revenue in the month of May for 2013. And don't forget, we're coming all the way back around to pick up April in 2014, that instead of us getting call it a goose egg, kind of what we're getting right now, trickle of membership money and nothing else, we expect that to be full, and that's our job. We expect it to be full of package play. We expect it to be full of more member play because we've had a year to build that up. It ain't going to happen in June. We've got a year to build that up. And that number is similar to what we were able to see in April of 2011. So there is some lift. There is some lift that we need in the season right away. And we need to get off to a good start. There is no doubt. But we're starting. Our membership push starts now. It's already started. It started in February. Most of the biggest drive to get people thinking about being a member here has to start then. Because if we wait till May, it's too late. People will decide. Yes, sir.
Can I segue a little bit? Just a small segue. Another question that's on here, and I'm trying to hit the ones I remember as they come up.
I'm trying to check them off with the others.
Talking about membership, and how do you feel, I guess it's a two-fold question, how do you feel that our current dues structure, and do you have any recommendations for how it might change? I mean, this is, by the way, a budget issue because those dues are going to be done in the next
or 2 months.
The current due structure is not a lot we can do with that right now until we can get the confidence back in the membership we have and start bringing more people in and convincing them, showing them the proof, proving to them what we've invested in, and this is why you should be a member here, or this is why you should continue to be a member here. We fully expect, we would never have endorsed redoing greens and all those types of things if we couldn't start to charge more. Not only the membership a little bit, but also to the public APR that we were all trying to figure out before. It shouldn't be $30. It's got to be more than that. But when you pull out almost all the package business, when you pull out, I must have moved it the wrong way.
It's one of our members.
That probably. When you pull out all that package business in a single year, you can imagine how that affects your overall APR. And some of those rounds, which have never been in the past, have been 9 whole rounds. So that APR performance,
It's not 30.
it's 30.
But the answer to the question is that this year, in this budget, as it stands so far, we understand it's still in process, but this year, in this budget, you're basically saying that the rates are okay. I mean, basically, you're saying they're about right. And I have one follow-up after. Okay.
I just keep raising my hand and the president keeps ignoring it.
How did you miss him?
The second question relative to, we've had suggestions. We have different kinds of memberships. And we have a population, for example, 50% round number of our population lives someplace else. I mean, there are part-timers that come down during the year. So we've had various suggestions, such as weekend memberships. For example, the most recent one, and somebody gave me what sounded to be a pretty good suggestion. Somebody other members said, well, that would be a good idea. So are you open to suggestions like that from the membership? And if so, how can you put them forward such that, I mean, we actually have a membership committee within our council.
The answer to that question is we're open to any feedback that you guys can provide or any suggestions along those lines. We would want to be able to weigh the impact of making a change. Make some assumptions on, okay, if we add this membership type, it's either going to go away or we're going to get 50 of these and get back to the 30 and what the overall bottom line is.
So the basic thing is if they put it forward and you review it and you'll get a response.
But I would go through the committee, go through John and Mike and myself. That's just right through the process.
And I've ignored him as long as I possibly can.
Wake up, Dan.
Way to go.
I forgot my question. Not true. First of all, in looking at your marketing plan, and listening to you talk about your budget, I'm kind of intrigued by a couple of things. One of them is, my first question is always, please, acronyms, MAPTA is the Mid-Atlantic Professional Golf Association tournament, and that's already in the works. I don't see any other tournaments on this schedule that you have planned at this point.
I think we'll have, I know I'm still trying to get together with the members and the different associations. At some point, once I see what they're going to do, I'll start to plan some other things for not just them, but outside events as well, and continue to work with outings as well. But this really was just a quick summary of things that we're looking to do. I mean, it's not, by no means is this complete, but this is just a draft of what it is that we're looking to do, and then we're going to go out there and have other business, but also hold some, I'd like to determine where it's just resident discussion time, not just members, but all resident discussion time. I just got to figure out where to put it in the calendar, and I don't know if June's the right month, July, September, but we'll have other events as well.
We've also been doing some talking here about our if you will, our target market mix within this marketing plan. And I'm a little curious about that because I've always wondered, in Ocean Pines, how it is that we manage to try to straddle a fence every year, calling ourselves a membership club, drawing most of our income from non-members. I don't know how you all look at this or whether you've looked at this or thought about it or not. But maybe we should be looking at it and saying, you know, the real character of this course is more municipal than it is private. And maybe we should be rethinking a little bit how we market and what we focus on and where we go. That's why I asked the question about total number of rounds. We haven't pulled up yet. But if we can throw out 30,000 rounds at an average of $50 a week, that's good for you guys. Okay, without charging members, without worrying about that sort of thing, with a whole different philosophy about who we promote to and how we promote and what we do. Ocean City is a good example of that.
How many members do you have?
Ocean City is the public course, it's zero. It's a municipal course.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was landing. The only reason I'm asking the question is have you all looked at the alternatives and you're still comfortable with the package that we're looking at now? That's a hard question, and I know that, and I don't really expect an answer that says, oh yes, Dan, we looked through that whole thing. But what I'm trying to wave a flag about is I think you have to be thinking about it as you really seriously look at what we're doing, because Tom's right. We have to make a decision as a board in a month about what we're going to charge our homeowners in the way of annual fees for the coming year. This is a big part of it, and $500,000 in the hole is a big part of that. We can't change it once we make that decision. We've made it. It's done. So you've got to have 4 out of 7 people sitting at this table pretty happy with the fact that you're going to make the numbers you're giving. Right now, I'm a little concerned that I want to be real comfortable that you thought about all the alternatives and you really do feel you have a package together that's going to put together a mix that will work. And I know that's a big question, okay, but you're pros, you do this for a living. Hear this, guys, do it.
It lends itself to one other, and I have been looking at the process we've done through. In tagging onto that is, how do we compare results-wise to other courses that you're managing? Cost per round, revenue per round, forgetting May and all that, just, July was a great month, so how do we compare? Are we getting, again, full public course versus full private? I'm assuming you have other courses that are next year too. How are we compared to them in both cost, overhead, and revenue per round? And, I don't know if you have those numbers at your fingertips, but just your gut. What else?
I would say efficiency-wise, you guys have the clubhouse and the footprint, the way it's being managed right now can be pretty efficient. A lot of what we run into in trying to compare apples to apples is without the huge food and beverage component here, because we're trying to run this as a huge banquet operation and trying to compare it to a club that might be the most similar for us could be maybe like a Virginia Oaks, something along those lines. With a little bit of banquet space, they don't do a lot of banquet business. They have a membership mix that's similar, but then they don't rely on the package play. They rely more on just neighborhood play. Efficiencies are the same. That's part of the value we bring to the table, is being able to try to take those things that work across the board and implement them everywhere. Overall overhead, I'd say, is probably less than most clubs. Our average, and I'd have to go back and look as far as our average cost per round from an hourly standpoint, but from a salary standpoint, it's probably much less than a benchmark competitor. Our spend on the golf course, based on bent grass, Bermuda mix, kind of all that stuff we have going on here, probably in line with acreage. Because you can't just compare a golf course to one, because one might be 80 acres and the other is 123, and per acre. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but it's right where you would expect. It's in line with expectations to the guests and others. We talked about trends before, or we brought up trends before. The trend throughout the golf industry in the Mid-Atlantic for this year was obviously a very fast start. I would say a level off throughout the summer, and then actually the line went down for most people in the fall and into the winter. To go back to, Go back to your question about the overall mix and how we looked at everything. I can tell you the most successful clubs over the last 5 years have similar mix to what we're trying to implement in based on the economic count, based on where you live, and the different demographics might drive different results. We are open to continue to reevaluate what that should be. The most success we've seen is with that type of mix.
The reason I raised that question is obviously through how you execute this plan, you can experiment with that mix a little bit.
It keeps us flexible.
Exactly.
In a market that in golf business right now, you've got to be flexible. You cannot go down one road. The guys that are only public, unless you're at the very municipal level, are looking for membership. The guys that are private are looking for public. So to be the right blend in the middle, no matter where you live in the country right now, is what, unless you're exclusive private, unless you're congressional. But tweaking the rate on how those all impact each other, like if your membership is super happy, can you start charging a little more? Great. If your public is super happy, can you drive the rack rate up? Yeah. If you're out in your package business, you take care of that, you can start getting more dollars from that mix. So you're maybe not creating more rounds, you're just improving your APR range. My final comment, and I'll open it back up for some more questions, is that our view of how, I guess, we've been able to get it to this point in 2 years, is that we can get the product consistent, and we can actually go to the market and say, here's what we've got. You've got to come see it now. We've invested in this. You guys have invested in this. High likelihood that it will be successful.
I want to go back to that 20-plus card rate. Is what we saw. 1893 was some card for outside play. And that's telling me, it's telling me we're not selling morning AM tee times. Because we're selling AM tee times for $20. We're all going to get out of business. If this was your golf course, Josh, you and John bought it tomorrow, and you looked around and you saw that Eagles Landing, 0 members, did $1 million more in revenue last year. $1 million! And had a better golfing experience for the people who played it. Where would you aim your gun? What would you be targeting your market? I'm just not seeing this working. Our membership's going down. This is the most perfect 80-20 rule definition I ever saw. 20% of our rounds are played by 80% of our rounds are played by 20% of our revenue. 20% of our rounds or 80% of our revenue. Why wouldn't we adjust?
We're saying part of the strategy is to adjust slightly.
I don't see anything in this marketing that targets. I don't know what our average golfing member's age is, but every younger when I say younger, I'm an old guy. Every 45, 50, 55-year-old golfer I know that lives in Ocean Palms is a member elsewhere. I mean, that's bar none. Buddy Sass has more under 60 golfers that live in Ocean Palms than we do. What does that tell you guys? You're in the business, I'm not.
Again, going back to my original point, especially over the last 3 to 4 years, the consistency of the product, the consistency of the experience at Ocean Pines has not been the level that we can go sell membership. You can't have a golf course that's redoing 9 holes and expect your membership base to increase. The best you can hope for is to have it hold flat. And I think that's what we were hoping that the budget would accomplish in this year.
design is better, ambiance is better, everything's better. Terry?
I really agree with that. We have not had a good product to sell. Same as the yacht club. It's the reason why banquet business was off. I wouldn't book a banquet at the yacht club, not in the condition that it was in. I mean, I might now, knowing that what it's going to look like, I might book something a year from now. But I would never have booked that yacht club for something not in the condition it was in, the problems that it had. Same thing here. I mean, I don't play golf, but if I knew a golf course, the part of the course was under construction or the greens weren't good, I wouldn't either. You gotta have a good product to sell.
Well, right,
No, he was just.
If I can ask, if we have a consistent product and we have work done that everything that can be good, do you ever see this operation getting to a break even? I'm thinking in the future now, but hopefully not too far in the future, because we're dealing with $500,000 loss now. Can we get to a break even? You know,
I haven't seen anything about
you don't see the income.
it. It won't be year one.
He has an incentive.
So that's and on a long-term basis, something we haven't covered is not budget. Is there anything else? I know when I've been to some of the meetings with the golfers, they've been concerned about the condition of the carts and the batteries breaking and the golf cart building. Long-term wise, are those issues being addressed, or, I mean, I haven't seen any reports about that kind of stuff.
I think if Bob and I have been working together about the golf carts, the carts themselves are in good condition, but we're reached the end of the life cycle for a lot of the batteries, and so we're in the process of getting numbers to replace those so that the rest of the life cycle of the cars are good to go and we don't have any issues with those. Those were the biggest issues throughout the past year, and Grant really been here. Just going on what I've heard and seen, that the cars, just the batteries weren't holding the charge anymore. Typically 3.5 to 4 years is about what you'd expect out of the batteries, and that's where we're at. We're 3.5 years right now. So
Exceeded your warranty. So what is the 3-year warranty on the battery?
or per unit of use.
another part of the question that I thought was valid was just walk me through the maintenance schedules that you've got. I mean, not line item by line item, but the carts. Is there a maintenance schedule where we're checking the batteries and we're going to, are we at a point where we have to change out all the batteries for all of the new carts we buy, or is that be sequentially being budgeted so that we're not in all at once on it?
Most likely it's going to be all at once. Yes, we do have we do have a maintenance log. We do have maintenance practices that go down, daily, weekly, monthly checks all the way around.
So you're following the manufacturer's recommended maintenance.
Yes.
It's just flat out the wrong. It's just flat out at the end of the cycle. It used to be in the battery world, in the post-shelf business, the batteries, especially on a flat course, maybe without doing 60,000, 70,000 rounds, you could get 4 to 5 years. But the quality of batteries, the lithium, blah blah blah, it's just that you can see it go in the warranties. The warranties used to be much longer, and now they are almost to the, I'll call it to the penny, almost to the unit. The minute that thing turns from, what is it, 20,000 units? 800 to 20,000 usable units, it's just, falls off the cliff. It just falls off the cliff. So what we're all trying to do is make sure we at least get them to 20 now, because if we don't maintain them correctly, they'll go south. And most of us, in the golf world, we're leasing carts for 5 or 6 years. So where we never used to have to worry about budgeting for recycled batteries, big expense. Now it's part of the process. You're going to lease for 5 years, somewhere 2.5 or 3, you're going to have an expenditure.
So a lease would not solve the problem versus ownership.
Set it up short.
Yeah, what's that?
Then it costs.
You then have the issue of capital versus.
I know, I remember the conversation. Okay, yes.
You should remember that.
Yeah.
Another part of it, when we're, again, I'm checking off the questions we went through. This is a very specific question that has to do with the level, I'm going to phrase it this way, is there's training for people to work on a course. There's an impression from many people apparently that there is some damage being done to the course by the workers that are working on it. And this has apparently been brought to the attention of your predecessor more than once over the last couple of years. Is there annual training ongoing to your folks who work for you here so that they know how to do what they're supposed to do? This is a bit of a hanging curveball, I realize, but the answer is, I hope the answer to this is yes, and
The answer is
you
yes.
have to address this issue.
Yeah, Dan, elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yes, I'm not that concerned with damage.
I just have the question.
I can answer
Okay.
that question, I think. I mean, this has come up regularly, I think, you get a lot of the golf council meetings, and it's not just this year, it's the past year. And I have to say, in fairness, I think it's not only during Billy Casper's. You can drive on a fairway or go on a fairway or a rough on a hole, and you'll see huge tire tracks. You'll see them on more than one hole. Now, of course, you say, well, it rained the day before and it was soft and anything. But sometimes you'll see the same tire track for weeks in a row. I mean, the idea, now you can put all the nice fairways out there that you want, but if the course looks like that, then that's not good condition, and it's not good maintenance, and it would lead one to wonder whether or not the people who are doing the maintenance are being properly instructed. Okay? Now this is a continuing problem.
Yeah, that's the problem that is honestly everywhere, not making excuses. There's a training process. Actually, I was out here, I don't know, it was October or September, Rusty and I were driving around, and low area, like a pothole kind of, and somebody had driven the fairway mower through it. Rusty flipped the lid, went back to the shop, and was good about it, because Rusty's pretty deep, but it's constant training, and sometimes you have to get in there and you have to mow. If it's wet, you still got to get in there and you have to mow, otherwise you're not going to be able to mow it. The grass is going to get too high. So there's a couple things working there where some is just constantly watching the guys.
But you don't leave the damage there.
Everybody
understands
so this you can't avoid them getting there. So this fall, Rusty and his crew went in, they started filling in some of these potholes, grassing them, and they're still doing that now. There's a lot of the sod that's going off these greens is actually going in some of the areas that are prone to have this condition. They're filling them back in with some dirt, putting sod on top of them, so hopefully we'll alleviate that will happen. If there's not a pothole there, that you're going through and dragging the mud up the fairway, and it can't happen. So
it's also got to do with keeping a consistency in the people that are on each machine. We're trying to keep the turnover much less. We've had a lot of turnover over the past year or so. So it's about getting that new guy and then keeping him engaged and retaining him for the next year. So I want the same guys on the same machines as much as possible. I don't want to burn them out, but it's about getting them comfortable and knowing the golf course and knowing where to stay out of and where they can go and where they can't.
So if you actually go out there today, you'll see several of those areas where we're getting a lot of that wear. We're getting the pothole and driving the track and mud up. There's sod from the Screens project in there right now, and that'll be continuing throughout this whole project as we take sod off the greens. We're raising those areas up a little bit, filling them in, and hopefully we can alleviate having a lot of those issues.
One of the things that, again, somebody mentioned that you're starting a blog.
Right.
Yeah,
It might be, believe me, I'm not going to get into the weeds of running your golf course for you, but it might be valuable that if you are wanting your workers reports that they did that.
Yeah.
That you could at least put it on the blog that we're aware of this on hole 8, and we are going to be reacting to it, so that at least there is a source of information that you're aware of it, because if the folks that play this golf course a lot, they know it intimately, You know, they know exactly where they want the ball to land, if you mess that place up, it's gonna cause a problem. But again, I think if you could use the blog, at least that information is available, for folks, so they understand you're aware of the situation.
We actually we're working, not just ocean ponds, but everywhere. If you look at the agronomy side or the maintenance side of the golf course, it's always kind of, they're back in the corner, they're quiet, they're out there trying not to be seen or heard. And actually, our shift in the past probably 18 months or so, and going forward is trying to get the communication from the maintenance out to the pro shop, to the golfers. Really pushing that hard. It's kind of a little hard to break some old habits, guys. It was the reason honestly, I was a superintendent, and I like to get out there early in the morning, get stuff done before we see the golfers, because that's more of an introvert going, you know, just not just the way it is. So we're trying to break that. We're trying to make communication more, and you'll see that here. I think we've seen some more communication this fall, and it will get more better this spring. So,
one of the, I've not had a chance to peruse this very quickly. So I think I missed what my next question is, but the overall experience of playing golf here, if you're a member, you know this course intimately, but if you're here for the first time or the second time, you've not been here before. What internally within the confines of the course here do you think needs to be updated or changed to make the golf experience here, not just the course, but the overall experience? What is it that you see, I guess I'm naming this question, what do you see as needing to be updated or changed or improved to allow the golf experience here for members and then for those that are maybe here for the first time? What do you see needing to change, if anything?
Tough question to say what I need to see changed, because I haven't been here throughout that part of the season. You know, I think as long as we have, I know we have a great staff. From what I've seen, just in the small time I've been here, the customer service has been great. You know, we just have to make sure that right from the first touch out here, when they drop their bags off and things, you know, they're provided with all the information they need, where to go. That's a big part. People go to a golf course, they don't know where to go, how to check in, and that type of stuff. As long as we're providing that type of information, getting them on the first tee on time, getting them through number 9 and back out, you know, pace and place is a big thing as well. I think that's just more staff training, staying on top of the information, just giving them all the information they need to be successful here for the round. I think that's where the biggest impact can be. I'm not saying it hadn't happened, but that's where going into this next golf season, we're going to focus on that to make sure that that does happen.
Do we have any kind of informal at the end of the round of questions that we have people ask? And then keep track of that response as to how your day was? Or, I know the casual, how was your round, everybody lies about how the round was, but ultimately, you know, in my experience,
I play golf if you
yeah,
like.
you're the only one that doesn't.
Well, the one thing that is around the facility is the guest comment cards.
Okay.
So there's, I believe there's 4 locations throughout the facility down below. And just to comment on what Dan was talking about, the communication, sorry, jumping around real quick, but, you know, John has some new people, and for the members, you know, they see new, and first look at emails from John going out, updating them about what's going on in the golf course. And to your point about relaying maintenance information to the members, to the golfers, you know, John is working on another mechanism to easily have that information relayed to the members as well. So something that we'll be working on here in the next, maybe the next 2 months.
Can I assume management looks at numbers monthly? And if you see daily, good, okay. If you see a plus or minus of 5% a month, what do you do about it? Do you meet with the local people, say we're off 5% this month, or we're ahead 5%? What's the reasons for it? Do you do anything like that?
Right. No, we do. I mean, so there's a lot of communication between the various teams. If it's marketing, if it's the local pro or director of golf, and so we're, one of the things that we'll have in place, the marketing or the revenue playbook, if we see something that needs to be adjusted, that the playbook is essentially a calendar of, what we have planned. So, if there's a variance, we need to change or adapt, adjust, we'll make sure that we have those plans in place.
Because you have to stay on top of it, because I see it. You can't let it go for 2 or 3 months, and that's Jessica's job, or Emily. I mean, whoever it is. I mean, if we need to get more ads out there, if we need to get more marketing, and whatever it is, to get people here, we need to respond.
The MRR is updated daily, so that information is out there every day.
So they see a trend going on.
We have a weekly call with the Maryland courses with Mike, myself, Jessica, Joel, and the GMs, and we talk about where the facility is, what we think the forecast is, what we can do to help, what's working at some of the golf courses. So it's not just John alone. I want to try this, I want to try that. We've tried a lot. We see what works, maybe what doesn't work, and some things work in some places, don't work in others. But we're sharing the ideas, we're sharing the information, and he's not alone on our island.
Well, it's interesting to know that you said the Atlantic region was down in the fall. Is this pre-election jitters, or is this an economy thing? I mean, there must be some theory that you guys have.
Well, we won't get into politics of the election.
Correct. I don't expect that.
There's, I think a lot of it, I've been in this market for a long time. I think a lot of it has to do with people typically play a similar amount of our rounds of golf each year, regardless of what some of it's budget-wise. So if you're a public player, if you spent more of your recreational money early, when you got to the fall, maybe only play as much in that budget as you hoped so. If you're a member, you might be the only ones that really get to take advantage of it. But even still, some of the, if you're a die-hard golfer, when you start playing 50, 60, 70 rounds of golf, and you've got 20 or 30 of them in the first 4 months, that's a lot of trips around. So I think part of it is that from a spending standpoint, especially if you look specifically in like Northern Virginia, some of our clubs there, there was significant drop-off in the fourth quarter based on a lot of nervousness. We had a lot of things on the books that didn't materialize, and some of those were clients we had to do. I do think that the rebound, you start getting weekends like the one that's forecasted, we're going to get a really good indication early in 2013, which this will be for you guys, of what the golf environment is. A lot of people, too, from a corporate standpoint, spend early, knowing that November was coming.
Well, I know that makes it a better the uncertainty of the election and all that. Okay. Thank you.
Man, if I can, just going back, if I consumer summing up.
Well, I'm just,
Yeah, well, that's okay. I guess a couple of things. I would like to see these meetings more frequently than we have happened in the past. I'm not saying every quarter, even maybe every 6 months or something like that. Get an update on where we are. And then the second thing, again, I'll go back to that point, and perhaps I'll write it in the email and pass it on to your reporting. I'm just not satisfied with the level of reporting that we've seen from Casper. Okay, and I don't know whose fault it is. I don't know where, but I believe there's insufficient detail to understand what's happening and who's playing and where the cash is coming from and how much we're actually getting per rounds from the different segments. Okay, so the only thing I can say is I can't give you a list and say here it is, but you can go back and look at our past reports. I think that was maybe more detailed than we did. But on the other hand, we were managing ourselves, so it was good. I'd like to revisit that in the next month, especially as we're doing the budget, to decide, what reporting we make, give it to you, get board
Golf Now it's basically almost like a discount tool. It's with Golf Channel Solutions, and what they do is they go around to all the courses throughout the United States, and they have their booking engine that allows people to book, but it also requires a booking fee. But one thing that it does do to our advantage is it gets potentially people that might not even know about Ocean Hines to Ocean Hines. We actually have a marketing campaign in place that once we get those golfers, we're then reminding them that the best place to book with us is online on our own booking engine. We don't have booking fees, and that's going to be rolled out in the spring.
So the numbers themselves, you've given me 3 bullets and 3 sets of numbers.
Right, that's year over year, so gained 234 rounds over last year when you guys were on the system, and you've increased your revenue over $6,000. I believe APR is down, and this is me just talking, is that I think the rate that you offered was a little bit lower than it has been in the past.
One last comment, and it is just a general comment. The communications in this community are very good. And they're very good not only within the community, but without the community, which translates to the issue of fairness and price per round. We have to be very careful that a resident of Ocean Pines who's not a member of this golf course doesn't have to pay more to play the golf course in his community than someone who's booked a golf rate coming from outside. That does get out there. That information becomes very public very fast, and it's very negative. It hurts us. We just need to be careful about that.
And I think that
Thank you all for your, okay, we'll move to the next part of our agenda, which is public comment. Yep.
I think it's on.
It's on. Is it on?
Yes.
Can you hear me good back there? Yes. Could you hear everything going on before?
No.
Yep.
A lot of thumbs down back there. I'm one of those people who has a hearing disability. It comes with age for most of us. I probably didn't hear 60-70% of what was said today. How it impacts all you listening, I don't know. I just want to make the board aware of that. And most microphones, if you know anything about sound, they have a sweet spot. It's a distance of your mouth from the microphone to give a good resonance in the speakers. Now, for example, if I hold this microphone over here, you probably can't hear me the way you were hearing me before. Now you can probably hear me pretty good. Even a distance of a few inches can make a difference. Even a distance of a few inches can make a difference. Even a distance of a few inches can make a difference.
Okay, Major.
Same thing goes for these mics on the table. Probably have $15,000 worth of microphones here, but unless either the volume is turned up, 5,000, whatever it is. How much?
Well, it's not 15, it's
How
less
much?
It's less than half of that, Joe.
Okay, 7.
Okay, but don't make it.
It's a nice piece of money. Don't debate the fee. It's a non-issue. The point is, we got this good equipment, but it's got to be used properly. And I believe, and I haven't tested those, but I believe you have to be 2 or 3 inches from those mics in order to be heard. But I do have a question about the 100. But we do want to hear everything the board has to say. A lot of good information. Then I need glasses. See, my hearing's gone, my glasses, my eyes are gone. I have a pair of glasses here, so bear with me.
Time is running out too.
What's that?
Time is running out too.
Yeah, that's right.
Always be prepared.
5 minutes and the...
Look comes out.
Well, here.
Which comes out, pulls you right away from the microphone. I have mine, thank you. One thing I didn't hear in the conversation was, what is the projected operational profit loss for the 2013
2014 year budget you're preparing?
We didn't get into that yet today.
Do
That's-
you have it?
No, we haven't through the budget discussion, that number.
Can,
There's no reason not to.
all right, what is it?
Minus 150.
Minus 150. That's a little better than the projected budget last year. Minus 150. Let's assume that this golf course could make $200,000 a year operational profit. Given that over a 10-year period, say 5 years back, 5 years forward, if you take all the capital money put into this golf course, if you take the operational losses sustained in this golf course, and all the other costs factored in, give or take, we're talking, give or take $1 million, $1.5 million. Either way, we're talking $10 million. That's a lot of money. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't be spending it, but just to give you some perspective. If this golf course started making an operational profit of $200,000 a year, it would take us 50 years to recover that $10 million. But in the meantime, since we're looking 5 years ahead, in that 50 years, we have 45 years of potential money put into the golf course to be added to that. So we're looking at some big numbers here. I can remember when this board of directors, Dan Sikorsky was president, sat around and debated endlessly about how to cure a $100,000 loss. Now we take a $100,000 loss as a good thing. Now, given there were probably some extraordinary circumstances, and I can understand that last year, but $500,000 operational loss in 1 year is a pile of money. The only thing, just for a private operation, the only thing that saves us as a group, as an association, is that all these big numbers are divided by 8,400. That's all that saves us. And one final question. The private session the board is going into after this meeting concludes to talk about personnel issues. Does the personnel issue or issues, or one of the issues, involve an individual board member?
I will give the explanation of what that means about at the end. I will answer your question at the end of this session.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Do I need to go up there, or can you hear me?
So everyone can hear you, please.
Can you hear me?
No, sir. We can hear you.
You're going to hit the sweet spot on the right. Apparently, the little light going on doesn't mean that the microphone's hearing it.
Yours is working.
Mine's working just fine as far as I can tell.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
No ads for Verizon, sir.
Right. Yeah.
I'd like to know, as an association member, what has been the compensation for this current budget year to Village Casper Golf?
I have the contract in front of me, and it's $66,000.
My second question is, how is OPA holding Village Casper accountable for results? And maybe a follow-up question to that, as part of that question, are there results that Village Casper is supposed to attain for us as members? And if so, what is the accountability that the OPA is holding us to?
Contractually, there are two different segments of the contract. One is financial, whereas if their performance financially is positive, there is a bonus available, which of course has not been achieved at this point. And the other is an operational assessment done by a group of members of Ocean Pines and Bob Thompson, our general manager, who basically score and oversee the operations, the softer, I'm going to call it the softer side of it, that they oversee and work hand in hand with the local manager. So those are the two big buckets within the contract of how it's overseen. So there is an incentive clause for performance, and there is an operational side of it that is for oversight.
And I take it that those are made, I take it that they're made public to the membership when those evaluations are done.
There has been no bonus given out. So
I understand that, but as far as the second operational that you were talking about, when that evaluation is done, if that's something that would be made available to the membership.
Can be. It has normally not, but it can be.
Not a board meeting.
It's not, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not.
So the answer is no, that it goes.
We haven't made the decision on that, I guess is
Okay.
my answer. You asked me what is.
No, I understand, but I'm watching Bob shaking his head no, and you're shaking your head yes.
We haven't, there's 7 of us sitting here, there's been no decision.
Okay, that's the answer. Okay.
Well, that's the question of the next regular board meeting. I think that information is certainly available to the board.
I asked about the membership, not the board.
I've answered your question.
Yeah, you have.
So-
Yeah, you have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Any other comments? Public comment? Media questions? Well, no.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, that's right.
I have no further questions.
Frankly, most of our media folks around here can double dip, actually, most of them do. Okay. Thank you all for attending today. I will be taking a motion to go into closed session here in a second. I do want to read a public statement. It has to do with the meeting that's coming up. There has been, to answer your question, Joe, the meeting is about the inquiry that you've heard about in the newspapers. I'm just going to read the statement, and then we will go into closed session. There has been some possible confusion on the recent board actions. As president of the board, I thought it was important to provide some clarification, background, and context as we move forward. Our board members, as any board, should operate separately and collectively in a manner that represents the best interests of the organization. This does not require immediate agreement on issues. In fact, lively, candid, open dialogue is often necessary before reaching the best conclusion. However, that dialogue needs to occur within an environment of respect. The members of our OPA have the right to expect their board members to work together and act in the best interest of OPA. Over the past several months, there have been issues raised which imply or state wrongdoing by our staff, general manager, and or board members. This is a serious situation that requires action. As to the recent months, each step taken by me in this effort has been with the advice of our legal counsel. To be direct, while uncomfortable, issues should not be ignored. In fact, it is the responsibility of any board to address issues no matter who is involved or what the results of the inquiry might be. While this needs to be addressed, members of this organization or an employee of the OPA need to be comfortable they can bring issues to a board for resolution without such challenges being pushed onto the public stage. As an example, if there were an employee, and this is an example only, if there were an employee who wanted to report harassment, that employee needs to feel comfortable that he or she can bring issues to the board for review. It is also important that that person or persons being accused of an action should be given access to an inquiry which will establish the facts. In order to provide appropriate protections, these issues need to be addressed without the privacy expectation of an inquiry or a closed meeting being violated. The backdrop for all of this is as follows. In order to not cause embarrassment or unnecessary scrutiny to any individual, as this is considered a personnel matter, we elected to convene a closed meeting to discuss the issues. As trusted counsel, our attorney, Joe Moore, was asked to participate in the meeting. His experience and judgment was called on to offer a fair, unbiased third point of view on the issues of concern. It seemed more than appropriate to ensure we as a board were not overreacting to the issues in question. After discussion, Mr. Board was asked to perform an inquiry into the issues to provide the board with an unbiased establishment of fact. Further, it was also hoped Mr. Moore would be able to facilitate a reasonable dialogue amongst the group to help us reach a more effective resolution to improve board cohesiveness moving forward. It is not the intent to stifle or control any individual, only provide insight and guidance based on more appropriate ways to conduct association business given the escalating circumstances that have occurred to date. This inquiry is an internal board issue and should remain as such. Resolving our issues in closed session would prevent any discredit towards any particular individual. With the apparent public confusion, there are obviously those who have chosen not to respect the closed session and inquiry process, which has been used in Ocean Pines before. In those past events, those issues were resolved without undue damage to individuals or to the OPA. The members of this OPA and the employees of the OPA can be assured that this board will not pass on its responsibility to investigate issues as they occur. We'll take a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion?
Damn right. First of all,
Damn right what?
let me say that, Mr. Terry's statement, yes.
I'm just asking.
I'm sorry. Unless you want to enjoy the show, you're perfectly welcome.
I guarantee you there's not going to be a show.
And thank you very much.
Thank you.
I guarantee you there will be discussion. You guys are a big show. Everything Thanks. Good.
Hey, that was fine. Hey, bye. I just want to say while we are still in public meeting, that this is the first time I've heard President Terry's statement. And obviously, having heard it, I'm not fully prepared to respond to it. I do object to certain aspects of it, and I don't think it's a fair statement of what's been going on. Perhaps, and I'll think about this, I may issue another statement of my own at a later time to whoever's interested in hearing it. So that's my comment.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I don't think this is a personnel matter. I mean, it's a matter, I'm not personnel or employee. I don't see any reason to close it. My cards are up, face up on the table. Let's play yours face up.
Under the direction of our legal counsel. I call the question. All those in favor of closed session? Opposed? Moving into closed session. Thank you very much.
For the record, I will not be attending.
That is your choice.
Yes, of course it is.
And for the record, I never used your name.
Oh, well, you sure
Well,
fooled everybody.
that fooled everybody, Tom.
You sure fooled everybody.
Talking about